Hello chess friends and welcome to another video from this series, the best games of the Viswanathan Anand, the Indian chess legend. And in the last video we showed the game between Sergey Karjakin, very strong Russian player, against Viswanathan Anand in Wijk 2006. Only 1 year later, now we are at 2007, we have the same players, Karjakin against Anand, and they will play the same opening, challenging if they have improved something. Let's take a look at this video. So we have here Sergey Karjakin with the white pieces against Anand, and again he starts with e4 and Sicilian defense. Knight f3 d6, d4 opening the Sicilian, pawn takes, knight f6, knight c3 protecting the pawn, and now a6, the knight of variation again against Sergey Karjakin, and he goes with the same variation here with bishop to e3. e5, they are just repeating the game. Knight goes to b3, bishop e6, queen d2, same moves, knight from d to d7, long castle, b5, here f3, bishop to e7, g4, and now castling, and we have exactly the same position from the previous game 1 year before. Here g5, same position and before, so instead of retreating the knight, here Anand is attacking the knight and threatening to capture with an attack on the queen, so knight goes to e2, knight goes to e8, and here in the previous game, 1 year before, Karjakin played the move f4, which was not played in this game. After f4, Anand continued with a5, and this is all in the previous video that I published. So after f5, a4, and we have this beautiful game with knight from b to d4, pawn takes, knight takes, b3. Remember this beautiful sequence from Anand, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop to b3. Only simply the perfect moves here from Anand. But in this game, Karjakin didn't play f4. He continued with this novelty h4, and here Anand, is he prepared for this? He continues with a5. And after king to b1, a lot of improvements here. King to b1 already playing this, giving the room to the knight. The game continued with knight to b6, and here knight to g3, just bringing the pieces to the king side and continue the attack. And here Anand continues attacking on the queen side, so a4, attacking the knight goes to c1, and now d5. We have a completely new game here. Very different, and here Anand is threatening to advance the pawn, and this bishop will no longer be playing, and this knight is very strong, potentially jumping to c4, protected by the bishop. So here Karjakin decides that the best move here is to capture the knight. So bishop takes b6, queen takes b6, and now he takes d5, and now rook to d8, just spinning the pawn and threatening the capture. The game continued with bishop to c4, protecting the pawn, and now knight goes to c7, joining the attack here on the d5 pawn. And here Sergey Karjakin makes a very nice and very interesting decision. He can of course just move the queen away. I mean, he could have played queen e2, and after bishop takes d5, for example, or knight takes d5, doesn't matter, and bishop takes d5, and then queen takes d5, for example, and then queen e6. The game could go this way. Black is with the bishop pair, white is a pawn up, so maybe they could have played this way. But the computer evaluates this position as slightly better for black, maybe because of the positioning of the pieces and the bishop pair. But so that's why Sergey Karjakin in this position came with a very interesting plan. He captured the bishop here at e6, sacrificing the queen here. Look at this amazing combination here from Karjakin. Rook takes d2, and now not recapturing, but first e takes f7 with check, and after king goes to h8, only then rook takes here on d2. And Karjakin got one minor piece, one rook, and one pawn for the queen, which we would be materially even, but there's also a very strong attack here on the king side and a passed pawn on the 7th rank. Not easy here for Viswanathan Anand. He just needs to find the best moves. He continues with knight to b5, bishop takes b5, queen takes, and here knight to f5. This position is just scary. The bishop here is attacked, and rook takes f7. Look at this back rank, very, very dangerous. Knight takes e7, rook takes e7, and rook to d8. It's checkmate. No, it is not. The rook can go back. So rook e8 was played, and rook from h to d1. And now, what do you play? What do you play here with the black pieces? I mean, your rook is attacked. Of course, the queen is defending, but white is threatening just to play rook to d5 and keep chasing the queen, and maybe get some repetition or even improving the position. So, for example, if you play here king to g8, only to escape those checkmate threats here on the back rank, then white could have played, for example, rook from 1 to d5, attacking the queen, and after queen goes to c6, rook goes to d6, and white would be able possibly to draw this game by repetition. So in this position, Anand he doesn't want to draw. Anand doesn't want to draw. He believes he's better. So then he plays rook to g8. Look at that move. Beautiful move. Now the king is protecting the rook. And if they trade rooks, then the king is near to this exit here at f7 square. So the game continued with b3 and now a3, restricting the king. Rook 1 to d5, and here queen to f1. Now pinning the knight and attacking the pawn on f3. The game continued with rook takes, king takes, and now rook takes e5, and now queen takes f3. Look at this position, very beautiful position. You can't tell who is better here, because, well, it seems black is slightly better because the king is not easily playing. So there is no easy way for white to coordinate the pieces here and try to bring the king to the game, and that's all about it. The game continues with rook to c5 and now king to h1 again, pinning the knight and just putting pressure here on h4. Rook to c4, protecting the pawn and attacking here. And in case white is able to capture those pawns, then Anand would be dead, because of these passed pawns here would easily win the game. So what do you do here? Queen e1, protecting here the pawn. The game continues with rook to f4. Now the king cannot escape, and here h5. Pawn takes, here pawn takes, and rook to g4 check, king f7, rook f4 check, king g6, rook g4 check, king f5. Now bringing the king, rook is attacked, and rook to c4, trying to make this kind of fortress where the king is protecting the knight and the pawn is protecting the rook, and everything is guarded, the rook is protecting the pawn. How do you manage to improve in this position? Well, Anand passes the turn, he plays h5, and rook to c5 check, king g4, rook to c4 check, king f3. And now the problem is that it is white's turn. White would want to, well, it's not that white wants to keep this position forever, because the king can come here to d2 and then, well, maybe then you could check. Yeah, maybe white can do some fortress. So how to improve this position? Let's see how it goes. Rook to d4, queen e5, now attacking the rook. c3 protecting, and now queen h2, threatening checkmate here. Rook to d3 check, king e4, rook d4 check, king f5, and now knight d3. Now not allowing here this checkmate. A very dangerous position. Queen d2 now was played, pinning here. The knight also pressuring here, with the pressure here, and also threatening all sorts of attacks here. Well, not here because the knight can go back, but it's very intimidating to have this queen very near to this king. Rook to d5 was played, king f6, and then c4, advancing the pawn, pushing the passed pawn. Queen to d1 check, knight goes back to c1, and now queen to g4, putting pressure here on the pawn on h4. And the rook can no longer protect his pawn, so rook to d2 was played. And here queen takes h4. And yes, Anand could improve a lot the position, because now he has this passed pawn, very dangerous passed pawn. Knight to d3, attacking the pawn, and now queen d4 here again, pinning the knight. Here king goes to c2 and protecting the rook, and now h4. And now this pawn is hanging, so knight takes b4. It's getting dangerous. Anand needs to keep these pawns over the chessboard, otherwise Karjakin would be able to turn the tables here and maybe win the game. So queen b2 check, king goes to d1, and now queen b1 check, king goes to e2, and queen e4 check, just chasing the king. King goes to d1, and now the queen is giving support to the promotion square. So h3 advancing the passed pawn, knight goes to d3 trying to protect, queen goes to h1 checking e2, and now h2 here, advancing one more time. Knight f2 attacking the queen and also guarding the promotion square. Queen goes to g2, and now king e3, unpinning the knight, so the knight now is guarding the promotion square. And here Anand, I mean, why not to promote here? Anand could have promoted here, and after knight takes, queen takes, maybe it's still better for the black pieces here. Maybe Anand could win this, but very dangerous position because of those passed pawns. This pawn is weak. And yes, black could win this, but it would not be easy. So instead, Anand rather played here king e7. The game continued with rook to d5, and now a very beautiful sequence here from Viswanathan Anand. h1 promoting the queen, and after knight takes, not capturing the knight, but he promoted. Oh, look at that! He promoted this pawn just to decoy the knight to the very corner of the chessboard, so that he could capture now the pawn on a2, threatening the pawn on b3, c4, and also advancing another passed pawn. This is brilliant here, and in this position, Karjakin once again resigned the game. He resigned because there's nothing else to do. I mean, what can he do here? After, for example, knight f2, queen takes b3 check, and rook to d3, and queen b6, for example, the king needs to protect the knight, so king e2, and a2, there is nothing else. Rook d1, queen b2, just giving support for the passed pawn, and after king goes to e3, you promote, and this endgame is a lot easier to play the queen against a knight and a pawn than to play the queen against a rook and 3 pawns, and which was before, in case Anand would have captured the knight. So instead of the knight, he captured the rook and went to this very, very favorable endgame. Yeah, very beautiful game here. Let's take a look at the chess.com report for the stats. A game full of brilliant moves here. So Sergey Karjakin made his brilliant move when he sacrificed the queen, and Anand made 2 brilliant moves in a row when he was attacking that pawn on d5. No, when he pinned the pawn with the rook to d8 and also joined the knight to attack the pawn with knight to c7. They were the brilliant moves from Viswanathan Anand. A very beautiful game, very high accuracy, 92.5, and a very beautiful show for us. So I hope you have enjoyed this game. Thank you so much for your audience, and see you next video. Bye.